Hello, good morning from Mexico. Thank you for joining us today from around the world. I am Mónica Pallares, Chair of Ifla Communications and External Relations Committee. And in behalf of Ifla, I want to welcome you to the Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe 2020 award ceremony. I want just to tell you, when we were planning this ceremony, we set it the date October 8th, but we didn't realize that today, on 8th of October of 19, Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe was born in London. So for Ifla and for the landscape architecture world today, it's we have a double celebration. And to open the ceremony, I introduce you Ifla President James Hayter. Good night, James. Hello. Good night in Australia.
Thank you, Monica. My name is James Hayter, and it is my honour to represent the International Federation of Landscape Architects in the capacity as its president. I'm joined with my fellow Ifla colleagues who have made this event possible. Ifla's Executive Secretary, Sally Robertshaw, Ifla's Communications and External Relations Chair, Monica Pallares, the Chair of the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award Nominations Committee, Gareth Doherty, and the Chair of the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award Jury, Diana Wiesner. We are spread over 5 continents and countries. I welcome all of you who are attending either in person or at a venue or online. This is an important occasion for the global profession of landscape architects, and I join with you in celebrating the achievements of those who have contributed so much to the advancement and advocacy of our profession. It is my great honour to announce 2 awards at this ceremony. The first is the Ifla President's Award. The Ifla President's Award is bestowed annually upon an individual who has contributed to the global profession of landscape architecture through their individual contribution and success in advancing the mission and objectives of Ifla. The International Federation of Landscape Architects represents the world body of landscape architects through its 77 member associations and 5 regions in academic, government and non-government sectors. Ifla is the one representative body for the landscape architecture profession globally. Ifla's mission is to promote the landscape architecture profession within a partnership that collaborates with allied built environment professions and UN agencies, demanding the highest standards of education, training, research and professional practice, and providing leadership and stewardship in all matters. Ifla's standing committees and working groups are aligned to the UN's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and our focus is to help achieve practical implementation of these goals through the research and practice efforts of the global community of landscape architecture. The Ifla President's Award is given as recognition of an outstanding individual who, through their voluntary efforts within Ifla, have made a fundamental difference to the global profession of landscape architecture. The 2020 Ifla President's Award recipient is Beverly Sandelac. Beverly is Professor and Founding Director of the Master of Landscape Architecture program at the Faculty of Environmental Design, University of Calgary, and Associate Dean since 2012. Prior to this, she practiced landscape architecture with private sector firms in Calgary and Winnipeg, and taught in the Environmental Planning Department at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. Dr. Sandelac is co-director of the Urban Lab, an interdisciplinary research group at the University of Calgary. Since 2004, Beverly has chaired the jury of Ifla's Student Design Competition. Held annually in conjunction with Ifla's World Congress and World Council meeting, the competition has been instrumental in exposing the work of students globally and encouraging the exchange of ideas and respect for regional differences and approaches. The competition has also been critical in expanding the visibility of landscape architecture in countries where landscape architecture is considered an emerging profession. Beverly has given her time tirelessly to this task and to great effect. The Ifla Student Design Competition has gained in prestige and importance under her direction and is considered to be the preeminent event for students to showcase globally their own work and the work of the school programs. Beverly's dedication to this task and integrity in overseeing the competition is exemplary and has resulted in great benefit to the profession. It is with pleasure that I bestow the 2020 Ifla President's Award to Professor Beverly Sandelac. It is 6 a.m. in Calgary, where Beverly lives. However, we are thrilled that Beverly is able to join us to receive this award. We're now going to Canada to share with Beverly her receipt of the 2020 Ifla President's Award.
Thank you very much, President Hayter, and thank you to Ifla, and good morning to everyone. I would also like to thank Dr. Diane Menzies for originally appointing me to this position in 2004. I also appreciated the great support of all the subsequent presidents, and especially James Hayter, for my work and for the student design competition. Many people are involved in staging the student competition every year, and I would like to acknowledge them. I was happy to work with the local organizing committees in every country that hosted the Ifla World Congress and who did so much work to make sure that the competition always ran smoothly. My life was greatly enriched by chairing the international jury every year and from reviewing the hundreds of entries and then selecting the winning projects. The competition is a great opportunity of students, thanks to the generous funding provided. Many of the previous winners have now gone on to positions of professional or academic leadership. There's a very rich archive of those winning projects on the Ifla website, thanks to the leadership of Andrea Tutunzik, and I hope that the archives will be added to in the coming years as a resource for students. The competition has also given me a unique vantage point to observe how landscape architecture education is evolving and how the issues that the students are concerned with reflect global concerns. The students are really the future of our profession. I believe that landscape architecture is the profession for the 21st century. And if the student work for the competition is any indication, our profession will be in very good hands. It was a great privilege for me to serve Ifla in this role over the past 17 years, and I am honored to receive this award from James. Thank you very much to Ifla for this honor.
Thank you very much, Beverly. It's a great honour to be able to announce you as the winner of the 2020 Ifla President's Medal. Beverly, as part of the award, receives a medal, and I'll talk a little bit about that medal later on in this ceremony, but I'd like to hand over in a minute to Monica, who will show you the medal that she's receiving. After Monica has shown you the medal, what we'll do is we'll have a 2-minute break just so that the venue can be set up for the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe award announcement. So what we'll do is we'll put up a holding slide of Geoffrey Jellicoe, and there'll be this 2-minute break until we make the announcement of the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. So over to you now, Monica. very much, Monica, for showing us the medal. Now we come to the second part of the ceremony, and that's for the award of the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. Just as way of introduction, Geoffrey Jellicoe was a founding member of the International Federation of Landscape Architects. He was Ifla's first president and then president of honour. In his introduction to Ifla's yearbook in 1981, he summarised with wisdom the enduring strength and mission of Ifla. Since its foundation in 1948, said Jellicoe, the International Federation of Landscape Architects has spread its influence throughout the greater part of the civilised world. There is a common unity among members that transcends language, colour, race and creed. It is this underlying unity with its profound sense of creative purpose that may perhaps prove to be the most formidable of all forces directed towards universal understanding. Jellicoe's first book, which was authored with John Shepherd, was entitled Italian Gardens of the Renaissance and is credited with reawakening interest in this great period of landscape design. His career spans 70 years in a profession he called the mother of all arts. In his work, he combined an appreciation of classical design with modern in a completely unique way, having a feeling for the totality of a place and three-dimensional sense of volume. He understood landscape as being more than a picture and described the importance of the effect of time on a place. The Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award is the highest honour that the International Federation of Landscape Architects can bestow upon a landscape architect. The award recognises a living landscape architect who has had a lasting impact on the welfare of society and on the environment, and on the promotion of the profession of landscape architecture. The award is bestowed annually on an academic, public or private practitioner whose work and achievements are respected internationally. Yu Kongxian is the recipient of the 2020 Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. Kongxian has spent his career fighting against deteriorating urban ecologies and environmental degradation. His research on ecological security and ecological infrastructure, negative planning and sponge cities has been adopted as a framework for ecological protection and rehabilitation. Kongxian is the founder of Turinscape and was instrumental in the establishment of the Graduate School of Landscape Architecture at Peking University. Some of Kongxian's well-known projects include the Shanghai Hutan Park, Harbin Chinli Stormwater Park, Zhongshan Shipyard Park, and the Rice Campus for Shenyang Jiangsu University. His work has been featured in many books and publications, and he has given his time generously to many universities, giving seminars and attending conferences globally. His book, The Art of Survival, has inspired many policymakers and designers and has advanced the appreciation of landscape architecture beyond the visual to argue that it is a necessity. This is the decade of landscape architecture. The profession of landscape architecture, its definitions and areas of practice are changing very rapidly. New priorities and opportunities are emerging. We look to the example and insights Kongxian has shown us to realise our ambitions to passionately advocate to make our global a better place. The Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe jury noted that Yu is undoubtedly one of the most influential landscape architects in the world. The visibility of his high-profile design work and his lecturing and educational activities have a great impact on professionals and students, as well as on a broader public, with a chance to change the perceptions of the profession. I'd now like to introduce Gareth Doherty, who's the jury chair of the nominations committee for the award, and then Diana Wiesner, who is the chair of the jury. They'll show videos that, that explain their reasoning behind the selection of Konzian for this award. Thank you, Monica.
Hello everyone, my name's Gareth Doherty, and for the last 4 years I've had the honour of chairing the nominations committee for the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award in Landscape Architecture. Now, the Jellicoe Award is the preeminent award in landscape architecture. It's the highest award that Ifla can give to a landscape architect for work of incredible originality. The award is open to all landscape architects in the world, and anyone in the world can make a nomination. In addition, the nominations committee reach out to colleagues all over the world in different regions to invite nominations, and we also receive nominations from national associations. The committee make their adjudications based on primarily on the criteria of international influence. We send a shortlist to the jury who make the final selection. Now, the criteria for the award winner, as outlined in the rules, are: the nominee must be an academic, public or private practitioner whose merit, talents and actions are respected internationally. Accomplishments may be in such aspects of the profession as landscape planning, designer management, improvement in the quality of human settlements or environments, or landscape architectural education. Usually candidates are accomplished in one or two of these areas, and it's really fitting that this year's award winner is someone whose work touches all of them. I'm delighted that Yu Kongjin is the 2020 winner of the Jellicoe Award. Kongjin, I wish you all the best as you continue to inspire landscape architects around the world with your ecological approach to landscape architecture, using ecology in the broad sense of the word. In 2019, an identity for the Jellicoe Award was developed by Why Not Smile, a multidisciplinary design and creative consultancy based in New York, headed by Hoon Kim, who comes from Korea. The identity included a beautiful and radical new medal. Now, Sir Geoffrey didn't like sentimentality, so the question was what goes on the medal. We couldn't put his portrait, for instance. Instead, the medal is designed like a topography or a landscape, and based on Jellicoe's concept of the creative design process. Sir Geoffrey saw the design process to be one where the subconscious of the designer meets the subconscious of the client and the users, and this is represented in the diagram that inspired the award's logo. As I step down from my role as chair of the nominations committee, I would like to thank my fellow committee members: Merrick Denton Thompson, representing Europe; Ree Melissa, representing the Middle East region; Yoshiki Mishima, representing the Asia Pacific region; Claudio Nati, the Americas; Tau Tavangwa, Africa; and Peter Zeus joined us in 2020 as a guest member. In addition, I'd like to thank Sally Roberts-Shaw for your careful administration of the award. As well, I'd like to thank James Hayter, the president of Ifla, Monica Pilaris, the chair of the Communications and External Relations Committee, and Diana Wiesner and the jury for your careful deliberations. Congratulations again, Kongjin.
Congratulations, here from Colombia, from one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. You are undoubtedly one of the most influential landscape architects in the world. The high visibility of your high-profile design work and educational activities have a great impact on professionals and students, as well as on a broader public, with the chance to change the perception of the profession. Your pioneer research on the ecological security patterns and sponge cities adopted by the Chinese government for National Land Use Planning, Ecosystem Campaign, Urban Ecological Restoration, and also being an inspiration worldwide landscape architects, planners, mayors, and municipal institutions among us. Your professional practice is extremely powerful, inspirational, and highlights landscape projects of the highest caliber that not only influence social daily lives, but also culturally sensitive and sustainable landscapes. The award jury, composed of a landscape architect from each of the 5 Ifla regions and an academic and professional landscape, we all agree that Koyan Yu is one of the significant professionals and for his exceptional work in practice and education and its significant contribution to the landscape architecture. It was an amazing work and I feel honored to chair this international jury, composed by Barbara Deutsch from the Americas, Fritz Hofbeck from Europe, Vektat Alizadeh from Middle East, Anja Mourni from Asia Pacific region, Mark Sampol from Africa, and Naila Al-Ak as a guest members. Here we can hear their messages.
Hi, Kongjian. It's Barbara Deitch, CEO of the Landscape Architecture Foundation in Washington, D.C. And on behalf of LAF, I am so honored and delighted to share our congratulations and happiness for you to receive this prestigious Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. Your work is extraordinary on every level, and your global influence and legacy superior. I admire and am in awe of your ability to not just be an extraordinary designer, but to be an influential designer, influencing millions of people in their daily lives through your built works, influencing policy at the highest level of government, and inspiring and cultivating a whole new generation of landscape architects to multiply our effectiveness. I am heartened to know that this award is not recognizing the culmination of your work, but is meant to support your promise in the future to realize your big dreams. I can't wait to see what they are. Please know that we are here to support you and appreciate everything you do. Thank you and take care.
Hi, Kongjian Yu. I'm Fritz Aubeck from Germany and representing in the jury Europe. I'm very happy that the jury chose you from all 3 outstanding candidates for the Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. As professor, I had several students who worked at Turenscape and made their thesis about issues rising from the experience there. So I could personally an impression about your work in Turenscape. You are bringing together ecology and design in famous projects like Red Ribbon Park, Stormwater Park or Rice Campus. This means at all scales, from regional to object scale. And you could show in those projects that ecology and design fit together and are substantial for the work of landscape architects. I'm really happy that I could be in the jury and that I'm able to congratulate you to this outstanding prize. Bye-bye.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alizadeh. I am faculty member in the Department of Landscape at Ferdous University in Iran. Also, I am the president of Iranian Scientific Association for Landscape. I'm happy to join up the jury team on behalf of Ifla Middle East and ISLAP. I want to say congratulations to Kongjian Yu. I'm not sure you remember me or not, but we had a good discussion about urban agriculture and ecological design in the Department of Landscape Architecture at the University of Sheffield. Your ideas inspiring for lots of landscape architecture all around the world, especially in Middle East, because of water shortage and climate change. And your book are practical reference for our student. So I'm happy that you received the award, and I want to say congratulations again. Wish you all the best.
Hi, my name is Anggia Murni and I represent the Asia Pacific region. Congratulations, Mr. Kong Yan Yu. We are very impressed by your design that continue become a project that we can see all over the world. And not just stop there. Your dedication to teach and your books inspire us and the young generation how diverse the landscape architect may have a roles in the future. And once again, congratulations. And guys, please stay healthy.
Congratulations, Kong Yu, for winning the Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. I'm Mark St. Paul from Square One Landscape Architects, and I'm representing Ifla Africa. I wish I could greet you from our studio below the magnificent Table Mountain in Cape Town, but I'm currently working from our office here in Sydney, Australia. Nevertheless, it's been a great honor to have been able to nominate you for this significant award. And I'd like to thank you for your contribution to landscape architecture through your work as a practitioner, an educator, and an advocate. Your exceptional body of work has continued to inspire all of us that work across the African continent, and really proves that our cities and rural areas can be turned around from industrialized and damaged systems into ecologically abundant landscapes that offer rich cultural amenity and poetic value. And I'd like to wish you all the very best with your future adventures, and I hope that you will continue to challenge and lead our profession in relevant and uplifting ways.
Hello, I'm Naila La'il and I'm joining you today from Beirut, Lebanon. I'm a landscape architect and assistant professor at the American University of Beirut. It has been my pleasure to serve on the jury, and to Kong Yu, I say congratulations. Your achievements are impressive, and your thoughts and work have had impact across the globe. Your work speaks to many of us, regardless of the type of climate, environment, or landscapes we work with. While your projects may be influenced by national and local challenges, they have shaped the way we work across continents and borders. They are true models of nature-based solutions and tackle some of the most important challenges we face today. The projects give equal value to landscape experiences as well as cultural and natural sites. They allow people to reconnect with nature in a beautiful and playful way. Your work inspires. It inspires hope. A hope for a better future, which brings back true dialogue between people and their environment. Through creative designs and innovative thinking, you were able to prove that landscape architecture can be at the same time sensitive as well as bold and memorable. Thank you for your wonderful contribution to the field, and again, congratulations.
Thank you very much to the jury and to the nominations committee and to both chairs, Gareth Doherty and Diana Bisner, for their commitment and great work. And we are very happy. We congratulate Kong Yu. Really, your work, it's an inspiration for landscape architects. And now we go back to Ifla President James Hayter to make an introduction to the medal handover that will take place at Peking University. Thanks, James.
Thanks very much, Monica. The selection process for the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award is rigorous. I'd like to thank again the work of the two committees, the Nominations Committee under the chair of Gareth Doherty and the Selection Jury under the chair of Diana Wiesner, for their hard work and their rigorous work in coming up with what is no doubt the best person for this award. As Gareth has said earlier, Ifla was blessed to have the help of Why Not Smile, a New York-based graphic design company who designed the Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award and the Ifla President's Medal. They did this on a pro bono basis, and our thanks and sincere gratitude go to Hoon Kim and his team of graphic designers, including Hai Jung and Alison Lee, who worked on this project. Their presentation of a complete identity for the awards is bold and it's inspiring. Their inspiration came from Geoffrey Jellicoe himself and his post-Jungian diagram, which Gareth showed us earlier in a slide, which illustrates Jellicoe's concept of the creative process in the design of landscape. This diagram represented Jellicoe's incorporation of the conscious and the unconscious in the design process and the relationship between what he saw as the 6 components of a successful design process. These 6 components were the client's instruction, the designer's initial concept, the joint subconscious shared by both, the deep subconscious of both, and the final design solution. The medals are 3-dimensional, representing topography, time, and landscape. I can assure you that they're very beautiful. I would also like to sincerely thank Jenny Tang and her company, Ecoland Planning and Design, who sponsored the casting of the medals. Her collaboration with Ifla and help in realising Hoon Kim's vision reflects the spirit of the landscape architecture community globally. Thank you, Monica, for showing us these slides. Yu Konzian's contribution to Ifla, his generosity of time, knowledge, wisdom, and humility over many years has inspired us all. It is with immense pleasure that I ask the President of Peking University, President Hao Ping, to present Yu Konzian with the 2020 Ifla Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Award.
President Hayter, Professor Kong Jianyu, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to be entrusted by the International Federation of Landscape Architects to present the 2020 Sir Geoffrey Jellicoe Prize to Professor Kong Jianyu from our university. On behalf of Peking University, I would like to thank Ifla for its acknowledgement of Professor Yu's achievements. Congratulations to Professor Yu. The Sir Jellicoe Award is the highest lifetime achievement award for landscape architects and scholars who made outstanding contributions recognized by the international landscape and landscape architecture community. Ifla decided to bestow this honor on Professor Kong Jianyu. It is a recognition of his contributions to the field of landscape architecture and ecological environment. Taking urban and landscape architecture as the art of survival, Professor Kong Jianyu and his team championed spatial planning and constructing ecological infrastructure that prioritize ecology in order to solve ecological and environmental problems in urban and rural areas. This has contributed tremendously to China's and the world's ecological environment construction. Apart from doing research, Professor Kong Jianyu and his colleagues also devoted themselves to cultivating a large number of talents in this field. The winner of the Sir Jellicoe Award marks an encouraging progress of Peking University's education and research, and will motivate researchers and students to continue their efforts in carrying forward the traditions of Peking University, actively serving the nation and the world. In his book, The Landscape of Man, Sir Jellicoe says, I quote, "We are entering a new era, and landscape architecture is the mother of all arts," end quote. The global pandemic of COVID-19 this year has prompted us to reconsider our relation with nature and to think about ways to achieve harmony between human beings and the earth. Landscape architecture plays an important part in this effort. Peking University will give more support to the discipline of landscape architecture as part of the efforts to building a more beautiful and sustainable world. Again, thank you, Ifla, and congratulations to Professor Yu. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Hao Ping. Thank you, Provost Huang Lu. And thank you all for coming tonight. It is a great honor. Thank you, James Hayter and Monica and Diana, the committee, the nomination committee. It is my greatest honor to be chosen this year's recipient of Ifla Geoffrey Jellicoe Award. I would like to extend my sincere thanks to Ifla, the members of the nomination committee, and the jury, and to everyone else who has made this possible. It is especially gratifying to be recognized on this 120th anniversary of the birth of the man who defined landscape architecture as the mother of all arts, Sir Jellicoe himself. I would like to begin with my talk about my own childhood, which has ultimately had a profound influence on the way I have come to approach my work. I was born to a peasant family in Dongyu village in Southeast China's Zhejiang province. The village is located where White Sand Creek and the Wujiang River meet. I swam in the creek during the summer and caught big fish when the monsoon season came. When I was small, I took care of a water buffalo, which grazed along the waterways and between the paddy fields. There were 7 ponds, a patch of sacred forest, and 2 big camphor trees in front of the village, under which many legendary stories about my ancestors were told. The land was extremely productive. We planted 3 crops throughout the year, including canola, wheat, rice, sugarcane, and lotus. The land and water were precious, but the weather could be unpredictable. So we had to design and manage our farm field wisely, following nature's cycle and wasting nothing, and adapting in order to make a living. We worshipped the earth god, water god, and Da Yu, the legendary king who knew how to manage water and plan the land. We also worshipped our ancestors who had the wisdom of adapting to nature and cultivating the land. In all likelihood, I would have followed in the footsteps of my father, who taught me how to cultivate the land, manage water, and be a productive farmer. But in 1978, an army veteran who came to teach in my village, Mr. Zhou Zhangchao, caught up with me one day while I was riding my water buffalo home. He told me that Deng Xiaoping had reversed the policies and barred the children of the landlord class from going to school. So immediately I enrolled in school and began studying hard to catch up. In 1980, after 17 years working on the commune, I passed the National University Entrance Examination. I was the sole lucky university entrant out of 300 plus students in our rural high school. By chance, I was chosen to enroll in Beijing Forestry University as one of 30 students in the entire nation to study landscape gardening, which had been canceled for 10 years during the Cultural Revolution. I was fortunate to have some of the best landscape gardening professors in this nation as my mentors. Wang Juyuan, Chen Youming, Shen Xiaoxiang, and Professor Chen Juanyu. In certain sense, leaving the dusty countryside to make beautiful gardens in the city was a dream for me and my parents. But when I finished college and was starting my career of teaching and making beautiful gardens for the city, I returned home to find my village had been destroyed. The sacred forest and the camphor trees had been cut and sawed off. The creek itself had become a gravel quarry, and the fish disappeared. I began to ask myself, was there something more I should be doing? What about my village and my fellow villagers? What about the land beyond the garden walls and beyond the city walls, where at the time, almost 3/4 of a billion Chinese lived? So at the same time, I began looking abroad to learn more. In 1992, I was accepted at Harvard Graduate School of Design. I spent the next 3 years working with Carl Stanlitz, along with landscape ecologist Richard Foreman and the GIS and computing expert Stephen Irvin. I would often encounter in McHugh, Michael von Valkenburg, Peter Roll, and many others in the hallways. For me, it was a tremendously exciting time, a chance to meld the village level concepts of Earth God, Water God, and Dayu from my childhood with the ideas of the great Chinese gardening masters and some of the best minds in the West. The concepts of landscape and urban ecology, people-oriented urbanism, landscape perception, and revolutionary anthropology, landscape and architectural phenomenology enlightened the left side of my brain. Design works by contemporary masters such as Peter Walker, Lolly Olin, Michael von Valkenburg, Peter Haggs, Richard Haggs, Maya Lin, Martha Schwartz, Peter Lutz, and Bernard Toomey, and so on, inspired the right side of my brain. I happened to be at a time of great debate within academia, and I found myself fascinated by the tension between design as a political procedure versus design with nature, art versus ecology. I was captivated by two questions which have subsequently driven my entire career: conservation versus development, spatial planning based on the idea of balance, sustainability versus beauty, the creation of deep form. So after graduating, I was recruited by Peter Walker and the Sasaki Association in Laguna Beach, California. There, I was able to work with Richard Law on luxury properties, new urban development, and projects in the booming Asian market. Life on the beach was pretty good. But while I was happily designing luxury properties and imagining the grandeur of new cities, I found that the land at home was under assault. Old buildings were torn down, hills were leveled, lakes and wetland filled and polluted, rivers channelized and dammed, and the public squares and the boulevard were built at a gargantuan size. It was the opposite of everything I had learned about how to create livable cities and landscapes. And it turned out to be a national scale challenge: flood, drought, pollution, habitat loss. I believed I could make a difference, but I had little idea of the challenges that lay ahead. I landed at Beijing University as a professor in 1997 and was immediately joined by my lifelong friend, Li Dihua. Together, we started the landscape architecture program in the Department of Geography. We hoped to help an important new profession establish a foothold across a vast landscape. But we had just a humble beginning, only 3 students. And of course, now we have 200 students enrolled and with 600 plus graduates. But people still tended to see me simply as gardener, with no relation to urban development, land and water management, flood control, or ecological restoration. In China, there is a legend about land of peach blossoms, a magical realm of peace, a sort of Shangri-La. To a certain extent, I have always thought of Dongyu, my village, where I grew up, with the two big camphor trees under which I heard the stories of my ancestors, and the sacred forest where they rest, as the land of peach blossoms. And the landscape architecture to me seemed a way to recover the lost land of peach blossoms. So I felt compelled to reclaim the importance of landscape architecture itself, and began describing it as the art of survival. In doing this, I was inspired by Ian McHugh's pugnacious call to arms. Don't ask us about your garden. Don't ask us about your bloody flowers. We are going to talk to you about survival. So we launched a new magazine, Landscape Architecture Frontier, to promote our new approach. So we brought in top thinkers in the field and held over 15 international landscape architectural conferences to educate a young generation and began creating a consensus. We felt that immediate action had to be taken to reverse the damage. So we launched the concept inverse planning, we call it negative planning, which emphasizes the protection of existing natural functions and prioritize what is not built, what should be protected. I also realized that the only way to reverse the damage caused by conventional planning procedure was to convince decision makers to change the policy. So I kept writing, talking, and lecturing to decision makers, from top authorities to township leaders. I delivered over 300 lectures to municipal decision makers and ministers. I made a proposal to then the Prime Minister Wen Jiabao that, to my surprise and gratification, initiated the process of national security pattern planning and ecological red line regulation. These two concepts help identify and protect critical landscapes to safeguard natural, biological, cultural, and recreational values and functions, thus secure this wide range of ecosystem services essential for sustaining human society. And the State Council has since issued 4 state regulations to safeguard national ecological security. I also realized that bad decisions were being made simply because of misguided mentality about civilization and aesthetic sensibilities. For thousands of years, civilized urban elite worldwide has insisted on the privilege of defining civilization, beauty, and good taste. Bound feet, deformed heads, and twisted bodies are only a few such expressions of cultural practices that, in trying to elevate city sophisticates above rural pumpkins, have rejected nature's inherent principles of health, survival, and productivity. For more than 1,000 years, the Chinese girls were forced to bend their feet in order to be able to be considered beautiful enough to marry certified elites. Natural big feet were considered to be rustic and rural. So obsession with little feet sacrificed function and dignity for ornamental value. Today, landscaping and city building by far are the most visible, extensive manifestations of the folly of civilization and aesthetic standards defined from above. On one hand, the manicured Littlefoot gray infrastructure simply lacks resiliency and waste energy and materials. On the other hand, urban elites with little food aesthetics trying to elevate city sophisticates above rural peasants have rejected nature's inherent goals of health and productivity. These kinds of little food, gray infrastructure and aesthetics are not only expensive, but also wasteful and unsustainable. China's carbon emission in 2017 accounted for 28% of world total. China consumed about 60% of the world cement and 50% of the steel and coal. So I began advocating for what I call a Bigfoot revolution. This revolution begins with questioning some basic values illustrated above, and it proved to be a revolution in design that mirrors an earlier revolution in the way Chinese thought about their own bodies and own culture in the early 20th century, including the rejection of foot bending and they embraced the natural beauty of the human form. And this new culture movement was actually launched at Peking University. I believe the Bigfoot revolution begins at 3 levels of action: planning the big feet, creating walking big feet, making big feet beautiful. So at the level 1, planning the big feet, or planning ecological infrastructure across the scales, which is critical for securing ecosystem services and weaving together with a gray infrastructure. This ecological infrastructure must be planned across scales and combining nature and culture. Action level 2 is to create working big feet, means creating nature-based engineering models inspired by ancient wisdom, particularly from agriculture. We have developed replicable models based on traditional farming techniques. These farming techniques, including terracing, ponding, diking, and islanding, to address climate change and the related problems at a massive scale in a cost-effective manner. In China, for example, almost all rivers are dammed and channelized with concrete flood walls. More than $20 billion is invested to control flooding, but $100 billion is lost and 10 million people are affected every year. We need to accept and embrace flooding as a natural phenomenon and turn gray infrastructure into green to help temper the damage of the inevitable floods. In Zhejiang's Taizhou city, we redesigned the concrete Yongning River as a floating garden with ecological embankment that can reduce peak flood flow by more than half and create a seasonally flooded natural matrix of wetland and sustain natural process. This park demonstrates an ecological approach to flood control and stormwater management, while also educating people about new and forgotten solutions to flood control beyond engineering. In Zhejiang's Jinhua city, my hometown, water-resilient terrain and planted vegetation were designed to adapt monsoon flood. A resilient bridge and path system were designed to adapt to the dynamic flows of water and people. This kind of ecological embankment can reduce peak flow by more than half. How much can be changed if nature-based solutions are implemented nationwide and worldwide? sponge city for water resiliency. Due to the monsoon climate, over 62% of Chinese cities suffer from urban flooding. How much more flooding could be managed better if nature-based solutions were implemented nationwide? Using sponge city concept, such as ponding and diking, would greatly increase water resiliency. In Harbin, in the far north of China, we turned a park into a green sponge that filtrate and store stormwater while providing other ecosystem services, including the protection of native habitats, aquifer recharge, recreational use, and aesthetic experience, which together help foster sustainable urban development. In Sanya, Hainan Island, creating a green sponge in the center of the urban environment was an essential adaptation strategy for increasing resilience to climate change, particularly in an area where tropical storms can easily overwhelm conventional drainage system. So inspired by the ancient pond and dike system and islanding techniques in the Pearl River Delta, and use simple cut and fill methods, a necklace of pond and dike were created along the periphery of the park that catches and filters urban runoff from the surrounding communities. In the central part of the park, dirt and fill were used to create islands that are planted with banyan trees to create a forest wetland. Both ponding and islanding will dramatically increase the water retention capacity of the park and increase the ectones between water and land to speed up the removal of nutrients. The constructed wetland can accommodate 830,000 cubic meters of storm water, dramatically reduce the risk of urban flood. Landscape as a living system to clean water. This is an affordable and fast solution to urban water issues. In China, 75% of surface water is contaminated, and globally, 85% of sewage goes to rivers and sea untreated. But the landscape can be a living system to clean water. Terraced constructed wetland can be used to remove nutrient from through biological process. Along the Huangpu River in Shanghai, we designed a regenerative living landscape on a former industrial brownfield. The park's constructed wetland, ecological flood control, and urban agriculture are integral components of an overall restorative design strategy to treat polluted river water and recover the degraded waterfront in an aesthetically pleasing way. The 10-hectare park with 1.7 kilometers long filtered phosphorus and other nutrients from 2,400 cubic meters of water per day, which is enough water for 5,000 people. The Meize River in Haikou, Hainan Island, has suffered flooding due to the monsoon climate and water pollution caused by sewage and non-point source pollution from urban runoff. The river had been channelized with concrete for the sole object of flood control, which actually destroyed its ecological resilience. We use nature-based solution to revive the river. The concrete flood walls have been removed and the river was reconnected to the ocean. Wetland are reconstructed so that the mangrove can grow. A terraced mosaic of wetland along the bank of the river was designed as natural water treatment facilities that catch and cleanse nutrient-laden runoffs. and wildlife habitat has been recovered in the dense city. The mangrove park in Sanya City is another example of nature-based climate resilience. To mitigate urban flood risk caused by climate change, it was critical to restore mangrove along the waterways and coastal shorelines. One of the key challenges was finding an efficient and inexpensive method to reestablish the mangrove habitat that had been extensively destroyed due to rapid urban debris and concrete from the demolition of the flood wall was recycled on site. Cut and fill techniques were used to create a gradient of different riparian ecotones. An interlocking fingered design was used to lead ocean tide into the waterways, while also attenuating the impact of both tropical storm surge and flash flood upstream. In just 3 years, an area of lifeless landfill within a concrete flood wall in the center of the city was transformed into a lush mangrove park. In China, 60% of urban soil is contaminated, and conventional remediation is usually expensive. In Tianjin's Chaoyuan Park, I wanted to show how we can let nature do the work. Through regenerative design and by sculpting landforms and collecting rainwater, the natural process of plant adaptation and community evolution was introduced to transform a former shooting range into a low-maintenance urban park. The park provides diverse natural habitat and also retaining and purifying stormwater to regulate the pH, providing opportunities for environmental education and creating a cherished aesthetics experience. Action level 3, new aesthetics to make big feet beautiful. That is deep form. In this, I was inspired by Anna Spirn's new aesthetic concept that encompasses both nature and culture, that embodies function, sensory perception, and symbolic meaning. The timeless interdependence of culture and nature is most visible in the bond between peasants and their farmland. And practices such as cut and fill, fertilize, frame and access, grow and harvest, recycle and save, all of which embodies some of the principles of new aesthetics that inspired my design. Framing with minimal intervention. In Qinghuangdao, instead of manipulating the river, I put a ribbon on it to frame and transform the messy nature into an ordered urban park. Winding through a background of natural terrain and vegetation, the red ribbon spans 500 meters long and integrate lighting, seating, and environmental interpretation. This project demonstrates how a minimal design solution can dramatically improve the landscape while preserving as much of the nature as possible during the process of urbanization. China has 20% of world's population, but only 8% of world arable land, 10% of which was lost in the past 30 years due to urban development. Our project on the Shenyang Jianzhou University campus utilized rice paddies to simultaneously define the structure of the campus and introduce a productive landscape into the city. It is a demonstration of a method to resolve the tension between urban development and food production in today's developing world. In Quzhou Lumin Park, we embraced the concept of agricultural urbanism on a site surrounded by dense new urban development. We created a dynamic urban park by incorporating the agricultural strategy of crop rotation and low maintenance meadow. I have also tried to show the possibilities of reusing and recycling. While China has been on an incredible building boom, it has also demolished a large number of city buildings and thousands of villages and factories. The Zhongshan Shipyard Park, inaugurated in 2002, was an effort to show that existing building and structures can be incorporated into new development. So original vegetation and natural habitats were preserved and only native plants were added. Machines, docks, and other industrial structures were retained not only for functional purposes, but also to educate and because of their aesthetic appeal. The park demonstrates how landscape architects can create environmentally friendly public spaces full of cultural and historical meaning on sites, not previously designated for attention and preservation. Its design supports use by the common people, as well as the environmental ethic that weeds are beautiful. For over 20 years, we have tested and built over 500 projects in 200 plus cities and showcase numerous replicable models for healing and transforming our land at various scales. So looking back, it is clear that my village level landscape experiences melded with modern concepts of landscape and urbanism, sustainability, and aesthetics, and being on the shoulders of giants empowered me to address some of the common challenges that our profession is facing today. I find myself thinking often of my roots in Dongyu village. I think of King Dayu, who had the vision of healing the earth and living with nature. And I think of the peasants who transform the landscape in which they live with their own hands. So I wanted to think like a king, but act like a peasant. This is an incredibly sobering time to contemplate the relationship between humans and the natural world. The global pandemic is a powerful reminder that any belief in the conquest of nature is pure folly. We are all living in a new era of humanity. Yet, I also believe that the pandemic, together with climate change, is also highlighting how important it is to create landscapes that can not only heal bodies and minds, but also the planet itself. It is such a great honor to be in the company of the many great and thoughtful landscape architects who come together under the banner of Ifla. As former Ifla president Masa Fayado said in 2005, landscape architect is the profession of the future. Thank you, and please keep yourselves and your loved ones safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Kong Xian. Like so many attending the actual ceremony at Peking University and those watching, I suspect, from all parts of the world, I'd like to add my personal congratulations to you. Your research, your projects and advocacy have inspired the current generation of landscape architects and provide a sound basis for the development of our profession into the future. On behalf of the global profession of landscape architecture, we thank you for your contribution to date. We congratulate you on your successes, and we look forward to your further evolution as one of our profession's most important and influential practitioners and thinkers. To Beverly Sandelac, your energy, integrity, and inclusiveness has been crucial in extending the influence of landscape architecture globally. On behalf of students globally, we thank you for your leadership. We congratulate you on your achievements. Thank you for attending this ceremony. We hope you have been inspired. Thank you and goodbye.